In a season with very few wins, what the heck is success? Next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. And to the everydayers, you're the best. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Amazing. Thank you so much. All right, on today's show, we'll continue our predictions. We did the rule of 240 last week, and now points gained offensive predictions for the West. I'll dig into a little bit of that. It struggled a little bit. I went back and analyzed it. It struggled really when I started trying to figure out defense also, so I'm really just going to stick with offensive side of the ball predictions today and have that for you, and then you can surmise what you think, and we'll talk about where the teams are going to be defensively. I want to answer the question of what is success for the 25-26 Utah Jazz this season as well. On today's show. Jam-packed, a lot of fun. It is opening week. Can't believe we're finally here. Games start tomorrow. We start Wednesday. Today's show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Right now, new customers bet $5. If your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. I think there is a 4-part script for success for the Utah Jazz in a season that will be lacking wins. On the simplest term, it's for the front office to have more knowledge. That's really what we're doing. Let's just call it what it is. We have 7 young players plus Ace Bailey, 8, and we need to have a better understanding of which ones are part of what we're moving forward with. Can Brice Sensabaugh play good enough defense and be viable well enough so that his incredible shooting and those skills parlay into him being, okay, this is a bona fide offensive scoring machine in the NBA who's adequate defensively. He's a part of it. Do we get enough sample size on a Cody Williams to understand as his strength continues to grow and as he gets stronger that there is game in there for him to be able, last year, for him to be able to show and to be able to look at toward the future. Last year, so physically overwhelmed, hard to tell whether that was the case or not. This is where Taylor was such a bummer last year, right? You just got zero knowledge, zero sample size, zero anything. And frankly, Cody last year, the strength issue was so significant. I think you got zero sample size on that. So the first thing that is success for the Utah Jazz in the 25-26 season is knowledge. Just knowledge of your players, opportunity, see them play, does the increased maturity, the leadership, the physical growth, the athletic growth of Keyonte George show him to be a more efficient basketball player that is something where all of those skills we've seen since the very beginning actually come together into something. The other one is winning basketball plays. A group that understands when it's time, you begin to build the foundation to have winning basketball plays, whether that's setting the right pick, moving the ball in 0.5, rotating extra defensively, diving on the ground late in the third quarter to maintain the possession. Those moments need to be highlighted throughout the season. And then it can't just be 0 wins. It needs to parlay into some wins or 2 or some moments that remind everyone why you do those things. There's Phil Johnson, Jazz's assistant coach, used to say this all the time. Like, you just need positive moments to be able to continue to teach. And so we've got to have winning basketball plays that actually lead to moments of enjoyment and pleasure and thrill that remind you, okay, this is why we're going to do these things. I think that's a big one. Statistically, you guys all know I want to find statistical things that say, like, okay, this is what. So this one's kind of silly, but not 30th. Now, I'm going to show you I haven't finished the Eastern Conference yet till tomorrow. I'm going to show you the points game predictions, and not 30th might not be the easiest thing for us to do. But last year we were 30th in turning the ball over. Last year we were 30th in trying to force turnovers. Last year we were 30th in the amount of time somebody was in transition against us. Too many 30ths last year. I think that's got to be one of the things that understanding what the roster allows and doesn't allow. I don't think we're about to be top 10 defensively. I don't think we're about to be top 20 defensively. Can we not be 30th? And maybe that's not totally fair, actually, but that's kind of my feeling, is that when I look down on the Utah Jazz numbers this next year, whether it's shooting percentage, and maybe that's the one that's the most unfair to judge, but last year, can we avoid where we end up being just so poor defensively, is really probably what I'm talking about as much as anything. Last year, by the time we actually got there, we were 29th defensively. New Orleans was worse by the end. But we were 30th in taking care of the ball. We were 30th in forcing turnovers. We were 30th in the amount of time someone's in transition. Those are the items that I think, can we avoid 30th? Again, that might not be the most fair on my part, considering some of the youthfulness on the roster and things of that nature. On the other end, like, I actually think there's something to it, that there's just a level of effort and commitment that can get you out of 30th. Okay? Right? Like, that's a little bit of, my feeling on that. So, 30th ranked half-court defense last year. Can we avoid that? 30th ranked defending off-ball screens last year. Can we avoid that? And maybe that's just 27th in some of these things. But can we avoid 30th? That would be kind of a little, I just think there's something to that. The last one is, I go back to the Austin Ainge comment at his introductory press conference when, he said every player wants to play to win and wants to have hope. And this was, of course, taken that we wouldn't be tanking. I think we're going to have a hard time getting to 20 wins. So you can call it what you want, but we are going to be playing to win every single night. Maybe 25 is the better number to choose there, just because it doesn't sound as outrageous. And so what you're really trying to build is that Keyonte and Brice and Taylor and Cody and Kyle and Isaiah and Ace and Walter and Walker and maybe in the veteran Lowry have some feeling together of hope, that they can see, well, that's where Oklahoma City went. That's where Denver went when they built together. That's where so-and-so went. And they can see where they're going and how Cleveland built and how we're going to be able to do the same thing. Now, what gets tricky is you can be like Memphis right now, who I think is going to start to lose hope that they once had. Right? Memphis had that hope when we saw them in the first round of the playoffs many years ago. They had that hope with Jaren Jackson and John Morant and Dylan Brooks and the whole thing. And now I think, they've had enough injuries, enough bad moments. I think they're going to be a very curious team to watch this year of whether or not they've lost that hope. But those are my four. Knowledge for the front office, winning plays and moments, So the winning plays is really what the coaching staff is going to highlight and talk about and be there. And then moments that reconfirm those to so they can continue to coach it. Statistically, not 30th, and hope for the players and the group in itself. And if those four things can take place, despite the win-loss record, I would call this season a success. Is there any chance? Are you telling me we have a chance? No, I'm actually not. The numbers I did last night on the points gained predictions for the year offensively make 30th hard to avoid. Next on Locked On Jazz. Monday edition of Locked On Jazz brought to you by our friends over at Murdoch Chevy. That's located in Woods Cross, also located in Logan. The Chevy truck, there's just nothing like it. It's Americana. The Silverado is the king poobah of the trucks. You're sitting up there, you're driving it, you're feeling empowered. Lazy boy chair, just looking out on the world with this comfortable ride and this powerful machine underneath you. The Colorado's the zippier truck, smaller, gets around the house jobs done, super fun to have for you. And those are all available for you at Murdoch Chevy. Plus the great SUV lineup highlighted by the Tahoe and the Suburban with the Equinox and the Blazer and the Trailblazer. It's all at Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross, also located in Logan. If you're going to stop by, please email me first at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com so that we can get you the VIP experience that you deserve at Murdoch Chevy. Today's show is also brought to you by Peloton. Run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training thread at onepeloton.com. That's right, Peloton, powered by Peloton IQ, their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance, endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. It's training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, reach peak performance. Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching, actually track your reps, suggest the right weights, correct your form. Peloton making every rep safer and smarter, and the swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. So set yourself free, run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-training tread today at onepeloton.com. That's onepeloton.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Monarch. That's right, Monarch there for you is your personal CFO for you, giving you everything that you need. You have to know what you're worth, what you have, and it's easy to lose track. And so this means leaving money on the table, and that's why Monarch is there for you. All-in-one personal finance tool that brings you your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. So help organize your accounts, track your spending. Categorization, to me, has been the key. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where the money's going and how it can work better for you. Don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 50% off your first year with monarch.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network there is. Thank you so much. All right, let's talk points gained. This is a geeky lock-only stat that actually has been, as for those of you who have been an everydayer for a long time and followed it for a long time, has begun to be kind of followed by other people and various versions of it put out. The concept is really done on an individual offensive level. And for individual players, it charts how an individual player uses his possessions better than league average, okay, on a given night. So the concept here is that you have, let me see if I can give you an example of last year. Joel Embiid was the number. Oh, that's 23-24. 24-25. The Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and this is not surprising. This is like, right? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic were the best. Jokic was at 3.7 plus 3.7. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was at 3.3. Every year there's about two guys that are over 3. What that number means is that on a given night, Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will use their possessions, and Jokic on 22 scoring opportunities a night will score 3.7 more points on one night than the average player in the NBA. So let me just say it again so you get the concept. So we take the amount of scoring opportunities a player gets. We look at their efficiency compared to a league average offensive player. And we then evaluate that Nikola Jokic in his 22 possessions scored 3.7 points more than the average player in those same possessions. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in his 25.6 scoring opportunities was 3.3. Okay? So we put all those in together. So, and you can run it down. The top 10 last year were Jokic 3.3, Shai 3.3, or 3.7 for Jokic, 3.3 for Shai. Jared Allen 2.8, Durant 2.7, Daniel Gafford 2.4. It likes guys who can dunk. Domantas Sabonis 2.2, Jalen Duren 2.2, Zach LaVine 2.2, Giannis 2.2, Karl-Anthony Towns 2, Christian Braun Denver 1.9, Charlotte Mark Williams 1.8. Dame was really good last year 1.8. Norman Powell 1.8. Big pickup by Miami. Evan Mobley 1.8. Rudy 1.7. Cam Johnson 1.7. That's going to be important here in a second. So we now look at this year and the work of this. And I've got 3 or 4 different things that I'm charting here. One is how many possessions does everyone have? And usually this is the first thing I look for to see if there's a team that has too many possessions on their roster. And what's interesting is that everyone has way more possessions than they used to. It used to be if you were over 110, it was really a problem. It's actually probably teams that don't have enough possessions jump out now. There's only 2 teams where I really would say I think they have too many possessions. And what happens when you have too many possessions is that suddenly to get down to the right number, every player has to kind of decrease by 10 or 15% of their possession usage, and no players want to do that. And so you end up with some team chemistry issues. The 2 teams that I think are borderline, the Lakers have too many possessions. The Lakers, with the additions of DeAndre Ayton to their roster, who wants to use a bunch of possessions, and frankly, Jake LaRavia and Marcus Smart, these are all guys that actually use a decent amount of possessions. Ayton's using 14 a night. LaRavia actually uses 8 or 9. Marcus Smart uses 9 or 10. LaRavia and Smart are probably the ones that are going to have to, reduce down what they did a year ago, but whether they're actually willing to do that will be interesting. Obviously, Luka and LeBron have, but it means that they're projected in their 10-man rotation. They project to use 134 possessions a night if everyone's on average. Well, that just can't happen. That's just way, way too many possessions. Everyone else is kind of around 120. By the time you deal with injuries and things like that, it kind of works out. But the 120 is just too many. So keep an eye on that for the Lakers of whether there's just a little bit of Boston had this a few years ago where everyone was expecting more possessions and it hurt them. The next closest is the Clippers. What the Clippers have that's interesting is if everyone played their average minutes, they would come out to 313 minutes in a game. It's only 240 available. I use Kevin Pelton's minutes projections. Everybody kind of projects between 240 and 260 just because of injuries. And the Clippers have to have 50 minutes of reduced minute time amongst their players. And so that's a big number. And that's going to take a real effort, even though those guys are getting older. But Brook Lopez and some of these guys are really going to have to take a reduced role that they're probably not comfortable with. Okay, with that said, one team was dramatically better in the offensive predictions than all of the other teams, and that's the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets points gained comes out to plus 8.2, which is way, let me see if I might share a screen here let's see if I can. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Denver comes out to 8.2. The next, and that means that it's really because of Cameron Johnson, Nikola Jokic, and Christian Braun, and what they have done is that team now offensively is way better than everyone else in the Western Conference. Now, they were 21st in the league defensively last year. Oklahoma City, who's second offensively at plus 4.7, was number one defensively by a mile. So this is where my projection system kind of has fallen apart over the years, is when I start to suddenly try to put in where they're going to rank defensively and then try to figure this out as though there's an equal to it, and that's not worked. So I'm not trying to do it this year. I'm just going to hold to this. Is that my expectation here is that Denver will be the best offense in the Western Conference by a considerable margin. And looks everything like a possible championship team. 8.2 plus 8.2. Their offense, it's not close. Denver's at 8.2. The Oklahoma City's second at 4.7. The next one that's interesting is the Clippers are at 3.5. The Clippers come out, they peak out on our 240 minutes because of the kind of depth they have. I just talked about the fact that they're going to have to deal with it a little bit. Their offense comes out as the third best by a fairly significant amount. The Clippers, I think, are really legit. Opening night, we'll see the Clippers at Delta Center. Tickets are available. By the way, SEG Plus, get your SEG Plus before opening night. Get 2 tickets to a game, and you'll be able to get the radio broadcast this year on SEG Plus as well. And you should be able to toggle the audio over the video on SEG Plus this year for the radio. So the Clippers are number 3. Here's the most interesting one. The Sacramento Kings were 4th. And then they signed Russell Westbrook. Now, Denver getting rid of Russell Westbrook is a large part of what's going on here. This system has actually just kind of lived on its success and just betting against Russell Westbrook all the time. But Sacramento actually had itself as right below the Clippers as the 4th best offense in the Western Conference, and then went and signed Russell Westbrook this week. And if he actually plays, now they can release him, but if he actually plays, it drops them considerably. So the 3 offenses right now that are way better than everyone else, or considerably, Denver's in a different stratosphere. Oklahoma City is number 2, and the Clippers are number 3. Then we bundle 4 or 5 teams together. But there are 2 teams that are surprisingly bad when I put these numbers together and did this. And we will share those with you moving forward here on Locked on Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz, and we'll give you those 2 teams in just 1 minute, is brought to you by, I've got to make sure I'm not sharing screens. I am not sharing screens anymore. Phew. Is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Right now, bet $5, win, and you get $300 in bonus bets. That's right. $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet as a new customer at FanDuel. Whether it's Major League Baseball final days of the playoffs, or whether it's NFL, or college football, find your $5 bet. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets across the app. That's right, FanDuel.com. Check out the local FanDuel Sportsbook. See what the latest is that's taking place. We've got a Game 7, 2 Monday night football games today with the NBA opening tomorrow. We are loaded on items for you. The Blue Jays are a 1.5 favorite. The over-under is 7.5. You can build a home run hitting parlay with Cal Raleigh and Vlade Guerrero, whatever you might want. The Seahawks are a 3-point favorite, and the Lions are a 6.5-point favorite over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 2 Monday night football games that are taking place. Today's show is also brought to you by our good friends over at Game Time. Game Time. I was all over Game Time all summer long for concerts, and now it's time to be all over Game Time for sporting events. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but make sure you get in on the game with Game Time. Basketball season here. Nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games, so you can get great ticket prices without the headache between waiting in queues and surprise fees, prices that jump. None of that stuff's going on with Game Time. Game Time app gives the fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets, fast, easy, and stress-free. Use Game Time up to the final minute. Buy your tickets. No hidden fees at checkout, and watch the prices drop right before game. The zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets for Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Back to our points gain predictions. And there are a bunch of teams that are all in the middle of the pack offensively. And then there's two big disappointments. So in the middle of the pack, and this is going to depend a little bit on player performance, are the Lakers at 2.7, Dallas at 2.5. Cooper Flag right now is a negative because he's a rookie. The Lakers really, remember, Luka did not have a very good year last year. And so the question is going to be a little bit on whether Luka can be efficient. But Luka has never been particularly efficient. Luka's points gained last year came out as a zero. That was literally what Luka last year. Luka came out as a dead flat zero on the system. He was a just average offensive player in his efficiency on the possessions that he used last year. And LeBron last year came out as about a 1.2, and this year comes out as about a 0.9 as he continues to slip. So it's going to be interesting to see where those guys play and how those guys play. So this is where the fluctuation and projections are going to be really move on how individual players perform. Sacramento, we mentioned, is a 2.4. Minnesota's a 2.2. Ant could probably get a little more efficient. Here was a big surprise. The Phoenix Suns came in at 1.9 with Devin Booker leading the way. Jalen Green is a negative. Dylan Brooks is a negative, but Grayson Allen's not. Nick Richards, Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, Mark Williams is a big-time positive points gain player. Little bit of a surprise here to me that this team came out as positively as it did in their points gain ranking. Some of it's the big guys. We'll see whether the systems are the change, but that was a huge surprise to me. Phoenix, who feels so short with everyone, feeling like they would come out. They actually right in the middle of the pack with Lakers are 2.7, Dallas at 2.5, Sacramento 2.4, Minnesota 2.2, Phoenix at 1.9. Memphis comes in at 0.5, and then the two other really big surprise, three really big surprises. The Warriors, the Rockets, and the Spurs all came in below average offensively. The Warriors, the Rockets, and the Spurs all came in below average offensively. Now, the Rockets were 23rd last year, and they were great offensively, number 2 in the league offensively, and that's what got them going. The Spurs, everything is projecting based on Victor Wembanyama, but Stephen Castle's not an efficient player, nor is De'Aaron Fox, nor will Dylan Harper be. So that one's going to be interesting. to see what happens. Portland, who everyone's excited about because they'll be a top 5 defensive team, is going to struggle offensively, and they're also just very short possessions. They have the fewest possessions on their roster of anyone. Like, it's going to be a big leap without Anthony Simons, DeAndre Ayton. Jeremy Grant or someone's going to pick up those possessions, and it's going to be a leap for them. New Orleans at minus 3.6, and the Jazz come in at minus 7. And we're short possessions, and we're short minutes. We have to get 25 more minutes out of guys than they averaged a year ago. New Orleans has to get 27 more minutes out of guys they averaged a year ago. That's just a sign of how young you are. So again, the points gain in summation, from a Jazz standpoint, the question is like, do we have a chance? This really would say no. This would say it's going to be a real struggle. This would also say that my idea that not getting 30th might be really difficult to achieve. The big ones to watch to whether the points gained offensive projections are right is Denver. These would be the bellwether items that you keep track of this year. And if these are hitting, then Locked On's Jazz points gain system is working. Denver is far and away the best offensive team in the West. Denver, Oklahoma City, and the Clippers are better than the rest. Phoenix and Sacramento are surprisingly good offensively, while the Warriors, Rockets, and Spurs find themselves in the bottom half of the Western Conference offensively this year. Steph slipped a great deal last year, by the way, and the projections still have him to slip. Now, Kevin Pelton has the Warriors near the top with Jimmy Butler last year and some things of that nature, so I would probably side with Kevin Pelton, but it's worth keeping an eye on. And the Jazz would come out 15th in the Western Conference offensively by a fairly significant margin. That is Locked On Jazz today. Thanks very much for being a part of the show. Thanks very much for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Tomorrow we'll have Eastern projections. We'll open up the NBA season. We'll look at some of the individual things we're looking at of players this year and what is success specifically for individual Jazz players. This has been Locked On Jazz. We now send you over the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel on YouTube, Locked On NBA. Plus, check out Locked On NBA with Matt, Hayes, and Wes leading the